Yeah, good morning. Uh, in today's class, I'm going to further in the practical examples that we are using for, sorry, let me connect my internet back for learning our JavaScript. So if you remember in the last class, was able to use, I was able to use the, okay, let me go to the admission. As you can see, we have 21 patient admission. So in the last class, we're able to view drugs. Can you see every drug that has been administered is being tracked for the nurses to see it. So that's why I would advise you to watch the previous video that I used to achieve this. We use the combination of JavaScript and PHP. But in today's class, I want to actually work on medication. So you see that immediately I click on medication, it loads to this page where I can pick the particular date, the time that they are administering the drug name, the dosage, the administration route, the notes. So I can also add another drug. So can you see? I can be adding. As I'm adding, it's going to be increasing. Exactly. So let's see how you can easily achieve this. Now, the first thing you must understand, as I told you earlier on, that the data that you are seeing above, that's you could see that I have their name, the administration dates, and the action. I told you in the last class that we did this by using an SQL statement in order to fetch the data from the database. Let me show you the exact place. This is the page you are seeing. Can you see? So this is the query that we use to fetch their data. Can you see? That means I'm actually joining admission with patients. I think that's the major thing I use there. Patients, then what? The admission. Now, but why am I doing this? The reason why I'm doing this is that I want to track the what? The admission ID and the patient ID. You can see by the time I use select a.id, you should know that I'm talking about admission here. As you can see now, admission space A. So I'm using A to represent admission. So by the time I say a.id, so that's where I actually what? Track the what? The ID of the admission. Is that clear? Then for the a.patient underscore ID, this is where I what? I track the what? The patient ID. So the reason why I just join with patient is that so that I will be able to see the what? The name of the patient. So now after I've done that, so I now use row to actually fetch them and display them. That's as you can see this when we're doing show drug and you see row patient, row ID. So that's why we advise you to watch the previous video. But in this place now, the basic thing is that because I know that in this particular page, by the time I click on medication, I know that I will need the patient ID and also the admission ID and the nurse ID. So that's why I quickly use form. I've taught you this severally. So how did I do? I hid the what? The patient ID, the admission ID, and the nurse ID. And I echo into the value attributes. Can you see? Here, this is the admission ID. So I echo it in the value of the what? Of the admission inputs. And I hid it. The same thing for the patient ID, I hid it. And for the nurse ID, where did I type this variable SID? By section. Can you see? Because in the login script, I've started the section for this particular person that logged in. So can you see? I also echo it into the what? Into the test feed of this nurse of this particular patient, and I added the three of them. So by the time I hit them, okay, let me even no, I don't want to go into that. So now the next thing I now did is that I now stored the name attributes. For example, admission ID, I save it with ADM ID, patient ID, I save it with name ID, then for nurse underscore ID. So the next thing is that I'll now go to the drug. So by the time they click on medication button, it will look to drug underscore administration.php. So let's now see drug underscore admission.php so that you see how I tap those three ID. Can you see that I've been able to what? To tap it at the beginning. Did you see? Admission underscore ID. Can you see that I use the exactly ADM ID? Let me show you. Can you see ADM ID? For the patient ID, I use ID. For the nurse underscore ID. Can you see? So this is how I successfully what stored these values into this what? Into this variable. Admission underscore ID, patient underscore ID, and nurse underscore ID. And the next thing I did is that I now prepared a form. Let me show you. You know, this is the form. So that means in this form, I will need to hide these three ID. Okay, can you see? See where the form started. And I'm using administer underscore drug. So this is the script that will process the entire thing, and I use ID equals what drug form to keep this particular form because I'm going to be using JavaScript with it. So these three ID, these three ID, admission ID, patient ID, nurse ID, as you can see, that I've actually what echo it back again. Why? Because I will need this by the time I'm submitting to the what to the database. And the next thing that I did is what I added it so that no patient will what will see it. So now, so that's why on a normal day, looking at it here, you can't see it, but it's there. Okay, let me prove that so that you know that it's there. So what will I do? Oh, I'm not in the C panel, so I couldn't really prove that. So if I decided to show it, that means I will turn this type hidden to what to test. I will be able to see it, which is rubbish. So that's why I hid it, so that patients will just think that the form is exactly like this. But there are things that is here that is being hidden. Now, going back to this place, the next thing that I now did is now I save the entire form in an ID known as what? Draw container. This is the major div that is holding it. Then there's another sub div inside this major div known as draw container, which is what? Drug underscore what? Entry. You understand? So what this drug underscore entry simply means is that this drug underscore entry is for each drug, but this drug container is holding the entire drugs. You understand? You know, sometimes I can decide to actually add up to three drugs. Sometimes I might just use one drug. Exactly. Now, after that, for dates, let's show you. Definitely this is for dates. As you can see the dates. Can you see? This for time, as you can see the time. This for drug name. This for dosage. This for the administration, and this for the note. So I have name attribute for each of them. Since I'm actually using what? PHP. Is that clear? Since I'm using what? PHP. So I use name, date, square bracket. This one is telling you that I'm going to be selecting multiple values. That's why I'm using array symbol. You understand? Normally, if it's just a single form that I will not need to be creating additional form dynamically, I will just need name equals what date. But because I'll be creating different drugs, you understand? So that's why I use date square brackets. And this one, ID for date underscore ID. So I did the same thing for each of this because at each submission, I can have up to 10 drugs. You understand? So let me show you again in case you didn't follow. Look at this now. I can say add another drug, add another drug, add another drug until I will now finally click on what? Administer what drug. So if I've added up to like 4 sets of different forms containing all these details, so you should understand the reason why I'm using what? Array. So let's go back. So after that, you will notice that by the time I want to add another drug, that's the work of JavaScript. I need to use a particular function that can achieve this for me. He said on click, this is the add another drug that you are seeing. Look at it. When you click on add another drug, there is a function that is making it to work, and that's the function that I want to explain. That this is draw count plus plus. Let draw count equals of 1 by default. And I use draw count plus plus. You should know that this is increments. That is from 1, I can add 2, I can add 3 drugs. When I say drug, I'm not talking to the drug name only, the date, the time, the drug name, the routes that you're actually placing it through, and the likes. Now, const new drug div. I'm going to be creating many div. So that's why document dot what create element div. So this will enable me to create different word div. Then new drug div dot what class list does add drug entry. This is the first inner div, drug under hyphen entry, and this is the major drug container. So that's why I'm using drug hyphen what entry for each set of div. Now new drug div dot what. In case you are wondering where is this new drug div, let me show you. Just highlight it. Control C. Okay, it's even there already. Let's select so that you know where it's coming from. Can you see that this is where I'm going to append it? Let me see the major source. Aha. Can you see? We created an element for the div and we stored it in the new drug div. I just want to know where it's coming from. Dot inner HTML. So what this one is actually trying to tell you is that dynamically JavaScript has created the what? The form. It has created the what? The form dynamically. And that's why you will notice that each time I click on add new drug, it will bring the div. Is all the div, what is showing you there has been dynamically created here. Do you understand? And the major thing I will just let you understand is that why is it not just using ID equals date or ID equals time? The reason is because there are many dates. For each set of div, there's a what? There's a date. For another set of div, there's a date. For the third set of there's a div. There's a date. The same thing for each of these words, for each of these test feed. So that's why he's now using what date underscore variable. This is object symbol, draw count. Can you see that? Let me show you where the draw count is. So if you say draw count 1, that means the first form that is number 1 for the first drug, for the first time, for the first route, and the note. This is the ID that is giving it. So when the count is 2, so automatically it's just like you saying that the first one is going to be what? Date underscore 1. Do you understand? The first set of div will be what? Date underscore what? 2. This draw count plus plus is increasing it by 1. The second set that you create, the date will be what? Date underscore what? 3. The same thing for time, time underscore 3. The first drug that you administer will be drug underscore what? 1. Drug underscore. Do you understand? So that's what this means. But I'll give you the code. Then the last one is what? Administer drug. You can see that when they click on submit, it will go to what? Administer drug. I will not really waste my time here because I've taught you this severally. So in case you don't know how to submit into database, you can go and possibly uh, study the videos that I did on how to submit what database. Either you are learning that for normal PHP or for object-oriented what PHP. So now look at this. This is where we tap admission ID that I've saved here. Can you see admission underscore ID? What I also saved for patient underscore what ID. I'm just trying to let you see. Can you see patient underscore what ID? For nurse underscore what ID. After that, for every other ones also, let me show you. Can you see? This one for date is what? Date in what? In square bracket, that is array. So at the end of the day, you will insert into the drug underscore what administration. So just go through the script. So in case you're having any issue, let me know. I'll possibly do another video that will explain better or get back to you via chat system. Thank you.